With Stranger Things' recent conclusion in January, one big question is starting to take over. What happens next? Because let's be honest, this isn't just a show that's anymore. It's a franchise. It's a full-on cinematic universe. With the release of Stranger Things Tales of 85, it is no longer just a show. It is its own thing. So how do you continue on from something like this without ruining what made it special in the first place? Hello everyone and welcome back to AustinPlus, where today we are answering a question that I think is very relevant considering I have just finished Stranger Things Tales of 85 and obviously binge watching Stranger Things 5. I think this is a very relevant question for the current time that we are in, which is how could the Stranger Things franchise move forward? So, without further ado, let's just get right into this. So, why was Stranger Things such a big thing to start with? Well, funny you should ask. Yes, I know you didn't ask, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. Stranger Things became a global hit because it combined nostalgia, character-driven storytelling, and supernatural mystery in a way that felt both familiar and fresh. While the upside down and its threats were important, the real reason the audiences connected was the relationships between the characters and watching them grow over time, which is why I think Stranger Things Tales of 85 went really well. Not a lot of people liked it, but I can't really see why. I think it's the same instances they didn't like Stranger Things 5. It's mainly because it was an end, it's closure. Some people don't like change, and I get that. But at the end of the day, it was a pretty good show. Tales of 85 is different, and as I said, not many people like change. But we'll delve more deep into that in a review video. Now, that emotional core is what turned the show into more than just a concept, but it made something that people actually invested in more. People were more invested in it, and there's no doubt about that. And that's what made it so big. But the problem with making something so big rather than getting progressively better is that you have to stay consistent or be better than the first time round, which is why I think the season 5 struggled with a lot of people. Now, there was a cultural phenomenon problem, which was the ending of the whole show. Now, ending a show of this scale was always going to be difficult, and not everyone was going to be happy. And I'm going to reiterate this so many times in this video because its identity is so closely tied to its original story and characters, and that you're ending on a character you only introduced a season ago, but then you're also still bringing back the ties to season 1. You're bringing back that nostalgia. The very first scene of season 5 was a throwback to season 1 when it all started. Now, continuing it does risk undoing a satisfying conclusion. That's why I think prequels are better than sequels. A video coming on that this week. But stopping entirely leaves behind a world that clearly has potential. But the challenge is finding a way to expand that universe without weakening the impact of what came before it. With the likes of Stranger Things, it's no one wanted it to end because they gave us like a 3-year gap in between each season, and the 5th one it only got better. Like, people will say they didn't like it because of, say, conformity gate theories and all this, like, oh, there's a secret 9th episode and that them big mind flare was a thing. That, I think, yes, that was a very weird ending, but it was still a very satisfying one nonetheless. But as I said, the ending is completely because no one wanted it to end, but there was nowhere further they could do. But this is where I think spin-offs and prequels could come into play here, and this is where I think the franchise can still thrive and potentially go to sequels if completely necessary. Now, what is the most likely path, as I've just said? The most realistic way forward is through spin-offs, but they need to be handled very carefully to avoid feeling like unnecessary extensions. Star Wars, for example. Introducing new characters always allows the franchise to grow without depending entirely on the original cast. Now, while moving beyond Hawkins opens the door to fresh stories in different locations, smaller, more self-contained stories could also help, giving the universe more room to expand without stretching a single narrative too far. I don't know if I have any ideas. There's a few things floating around, like the like Steve Harrington, the Harrington and Henderson, like something that would be cool. And then say a series about the Creel family, as he was going. Yeah, they touched on it briefly in Stranger Things, but say that like first shadow play and everything being into a show, that would be brilliant. Yes, it was a Broadway show and it was brilliant, but I think having that as a TV show would catch so many more people's attention than you would actually think. Now, the other option is, and I think this is what people really want to see, which is expanding the lore of the Upside Down itself. One of the biggest opportunities lies in exploring the mythology of the Upside Down. As we know, it was created as a gateway from when Eleven first interacted with the Demogorgon, and that's what the Upside Down is. It is a wormhole, and you can include its origins, which we've kind of already touched on, and its rules, and how it works with the likes of Vecna, and how it connects to the real world. Now, the original series kept much of this intentionally mysterious, which added to its appeal, but future projects could explore the earlier experiments with like Hawkins' Lab. I think that'd be a brilliant show. Psychological thriller, very similar to like Backrooms, the film coming out this month. Something similar to that. But you can also explore other individuals with abilities within this show, or entirely just a new aspect of the dimension, as like the Abyss. But the key is expanding the lore without over-explaining it, so the mystery feels like it's still intact, which is what grabbed people in the first place, but you get more of a deep dive and more cinematic feel towards it all. Now, the big thing I want to carry on with this is like prequels versus sequels, because both prequels and sequels offer different advantages and challenges, with prequels allowing deeper exploration of events like Hawkins' Lab experiments while being limited by the known outcomes that we already know, and sequels offering more unpredictability, but you do risk getting that connection from the original story. That's why I think prequels are safer. The combination of both approaches could provide a balance, giving the franchise both depth and forward momentum. Key thing within all this is, should they bring the original cast back? No, absolutely not. It may be a cameo here and there, but no. Bringing back the original characters needs to be done very carefully if so, because while cameos or limited experiences could help connect new stories to the original, relying too heavily on them risks turning the future projects into nostalgia-driven content. Because, I mean, I get it. It's a good, tiny cash grab, but it also links back to it, but you don't want to have them as a sole character. That's why I think Ghostbusters, the new films, are sort of a bit wishy-washy, and that's what I don't want this to do, because the franchise needs to stand on its own. With all of this talk about how to expand it, there is obviously a risk of overexpansion, which is one of the biggest dangers which is turning Stranger Things into an overextended franchise like the MCU, where too many projects dilute what made it special in the first place. Releasing too much content too quickly can weaken the brand, especially if the focus shifts from storytelling to maintaining relevance. What made the original series work was its focus, and losing that could just damage the entire universe. Which kind of goes without saying. The most important thing about this question is keeping the tone and identity of what made Stranger Things important in the first place. Future projects need to maintain the core identity of Stranger Things, which includes the strong character relationships, a balance of horror and emotion, and a grounded human perspective within a supernatural world. Now, while the tone doesn't need to be identical, it does need to feel like it belongs in the same universe than something completely disconnected. So, how could Stranger Things move forward? Stranger Things can absolutely continue if it evolves in a way that respects what came before. Expanding into new characters, new locations, and deeper lore offers a path forward, but the focus must remain on storytelling rather than simply building a larger franchise. By expanding the world without losing what made it worth exploring in the first place, because if Stranger Things becomes just another franchise, it stops being Stranger Things. But without further ado, folks, that is the end of today's video. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe and comment what you would like to see on the channel. But I hope you have an amazing day as always, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye now.